She's married, yet the tension between you doesn't disappear. It sharpens. Folks, many men stumble into this moment without realizing what's happening. A married woman smiles a beat, longer mirrors your tone, remembers small details, then suddenly pulls back when others appear. You tell yourself it's nothing, but your instincts keep buzzing. That push and pull isn't imagination, it's attraction fighting restraint. My friend, I'm not here to soothe your ego. I'm here to help you see clearly. Attraction doesn't care about rings, titles, or promises. It shows up as eye contact that lingers, questions that go deeper than necessary, and a warmth reserved just for you. Then comes the cover: distance, formality, silence. That contrast is the tell. Handle this wrong, and you invite chaos, office drama, reputation damage, regret that lingers longer than the spark ever did. Handle it right, and you keep your power, your dignity, and your edge. That's where Stoicism matters. Calm observation, emotional control, boundaries that don't need announcements. In this video, I'll break down the clear signals a married woman gives when she's attracted but hiding it, why she hides it, and how a grounded man responds without crossing lines or losing leverage. This isn't about fantasy. It's about awareness and self-command. If you want clear thinking instead of confusion, subscribe now. Pay attention, stay calm, and lead. Let's get into it. Number 1. Her eyes linger too long. Folks, this is usually the first leak, and it happens before she says anything risky. A married woman who feels attraction but is trying to hide it will let her eyes speak, then pull them back like she touched a hot stove. Normal eye contact is brief and practical. Lingering eye contact has heat. It is a quiet signal that says, "I notice you, and I want to know if you notice me too." Let's be honest. Most men miss it because it is subtle on purpose. She is not trying to get caught. She is trying to feel something while still looking responsible. So the gaze comes in short bursts. She locks on when you speak. She watches your mouth when you explain something. She holds your eyes a second longer than normal, then breaks first and resets her face like nothing happened. Here's a real situation. Mike is 52, divorced, steady, the kind of guy who doesn't chase attention. He works in a mid-size firm in Phoenix. Heather is 47, married, polished, and usually very controlled. In meetings, Heather starts holding Mike's gaze when he makes a point, not in a friendly way, but in a focused, personal way. When he catches it, she looks down, adjusts her hair, and shifts back into professional mode. Later, during a casual hallway chat, she does it again, then quickly turns her body slightly away like she's reminding herself to behave. Eyes reveal intent before the mind can censor it. The body reacts faster than logic. That is why this signal matters. It is not a confession, it is a slip. And the biggest mistake men make is responding too fast. They stare back. They grin like they just won. They lean in and try to confirm it. That turns a private moment into a visible situation. Now you are not reading psychology, you are creating drama. Here is the Stoic move. You observe without reacting. Marcus Aurelius talked about not being carried away by impressions. This is exactly that. You don't punish her, and you don't reward her. You keep your eyes calm. You hold contact for a normal beat, then you break naturally. You stay warm but neutral. That protects your integrity and your reputation, and it forces her to sit with her own feelings without you feeding them. Now don't overinterpret one glance. Lighting, personality, and context matter. One long look can be coincidence. A repeated pattern is different, especially when her gaze changes depending on who is around. If she looks at you freely in private, then turns cold in public, you are watching restraint in real time. That restraint is exactly why you must stay disciplined. My friend, I'm not here to tell you to cross lines. I'm here to help you see clearly and stay in control. Lingering eyes are information, not permission. Keep boundaries, keep your composure. Let her choices stay hers. If you've seen this before, drop a comment and write, "I stay in control, don't go anywhere." The next signal is how her conversation starts getting personal, even while she pretends it's harmless. Number 2. She finds reasons to talk. Folks, when a married woman likes you but is hiding it, conversation becomes her safest outlet. She can't touch, she can't flirt openly, so she talks. And not because she needs information. She talks because conversation lets her feel connected without crossing a visible line. Let's be real, normal conversation has a purpose. It starts, it gets to the point, and it ends. But when attraction is present and restrained, conversation stretches. She asks questions she already knows the answer to. She circles back to topics that could have been closed. She finds small reasons to start talking again, even when there's no real need. This isn't random, it's psychological leakage. When desire has nowhere else to go, it moves into words. You'll notice the shift in tone first. The questions become slightly more personal. Not inappropriate, just unnecessary. She asks about your opinions, not just facts. Your past, not just your plans. Your perspective, not just your role. Conversation becomes a bridge where physical closeness isn't allowed. Stoicism explains why this happens. Epictetus taught that people reveal their attachments through what they repeatedly return to. When someone keeps returning to you through conversation, it's not about the topic. It's about the emotional state they feel while engaging with you. Another sign is timing. She chooses moments where the interaction looks innocent. Hallways, short breaks, quick check-ins. She keeps it socially defensible. But the frequency increases. That's the tell. Attraction hides in repetition. Here's where men make a mistake. They assume talking more means progress. It doesn't. It means tension is being managed, not released. If you lean into it, overshare, or turn conversations into emotional dumping, you shift from being a stimulus to being a support system. That kills attraction and invites complications. The Stoic approach is restraint. You stay present, but not indulgent. You respond fully, but you don't extend unnecessarily. Marcus Aurelius wrote about not letting yourself be pulled into what doesn't concern your character. This applies here. You don't use conversation to seek validation or excitement. Notice another detail. She often ends conversations abruptly. A sudden, "anyway," or a quick excuse to leave. That's self-correction. She feels herself getting too close and pulls back. That pattern of warmth followed by withdrawal is not confusion, it's control. Conversation also becomes a testing ground. She watches how you speak. Do you flirt recklessly? Do you push boundaries? Do you make it unsafe? Or do you keep things grounded, calm, respectful? How you handle conversation tells her whether you are a threat or a man with discipline. Seneca warned that uncontrolled desire makes people betray their own values. When she talks too much, she's managing that internal conflict. Your job is not to resolve it for her. Your job is to stay composed. Let's say this plainly. When she finds reasons to talk, she's creating proximity without exposure. It's not an invitation. It's an emotional check-in. If you remain steady, you maintain power. If you escalate, you become the problem. Pay attention to patterns, not moments. Frequency matters more than depth. And restraint matters more than charm. If you've noticed this before, drop a comment and write, "I read patterns." Stick around. The next signal shows how her behavior changes when other people enter the room and why that contrast matters more than anything she says. Number 3. Private warm, public cold. Folks, this signal is one of the clearest, and it's also the one men misread the most. When a married woman feels attraction but is actively hiding it, her behavior splits in two. In private moments, she's warm, open, engaged. In public settings, especially when others are around, she turns cool, distant, even formal. That contrast is not confusion, it's control. Let's be real. People don't switch personalities by accident. When warmth appears only when it's safe and disappears the second there's an audience, you're watching someone manage desire. She's not playing games with you. She's protecting her image, her marriage, and her sense of order. Here's a real example. Jason is 49, divorced, steady, works in real estate in Texas. Linda is 46, married, outgoing, and well-respected in her social circle. When Jason and Linda talk one-on-one after group meetings, she leans in, laughs easily, asks personal questions, and softens her tone. The moment another colleague joins them, Linda straightens up, steps back, and becomes strictly professional. No warmth, no curiosity, just distance. That shift tells you everything. Attraction exists, but it's being tightly managed. Another situation. Mark is 55, remarried, confident, not chasing anything. He meets Susan, 50, married, at a community charity board. When they're alone setting things up, Susan smiles more, maintains eye contact, and speaks freely. When her husband walks in, she barely acknowledges Mark. Her energy shuts down instantly. That is not rejection. That is restraint. The psychology here is simple. Warmth creates exposure. Exposure creates risk. Coldness restores control. When she flips the switch, she's not responding to you. She's responding to the environment. This is where men usually blow it. They take the public coldness personally. They feel rejected. Or worse, they try to pull the private warmth into public spaces. They joke louder. They tease. They try to reclaim the connection. That move is dangerous. It turns a contained situation into a visible one. The Stoic approach is observation without reaction. Marcus Aurelius spoke about not letting external shifts disturb your inner balance. When her energy changes, yours stays steady. You don't punish the coldness. You don't reward the warmth. You remain consistent. Consistency is power here. When you act the same in private and public, calm, respectful, unbothered, you signal maturity. That maturity keeps you safe and keeps the tension from turning into trouble. Another important detail. The warmer she is in private, the colder she often becomes in public. That exaggeration is intentional. It's her way of overcorrecting so no one suspects anything. The more disciplined she is, the more you should be. My friend, this signal is not an invitation to escalate. It's information. It tells you attraction exists alongside boundaries. Your job is not to test those boundaries. It's to respect them without becoming small or awkward. When you stay grounded, you keep your dignity and your leverage. You don't get pulled into secrecy or fantasy. You stay in control of yourself. If you've noticed this pattern before, drop a comment and write, "I stay composed." Hold right there. What comes next explains why emotional sharing increases even when physical closeness is off limits. Number 4. She shares emotional gaps. Folks, this is where things quietly cross from surface-level attraction into something more dangerous. When a married woman starts sharing emotional gaps with you, she's not flirting with her body. She's flirting with vulnerability, and that is far more revealing. Let's be clear. Emotional gaps are not casual complaints. They are selective disclosures. She doesn't rant about everything. She opens specific doors. She talks about feeling unseen, unappreciated, misunderstood, or disconnected. Not dramatically, calmly, almost thoughtfully. That's the signal. Most men misunderstand this moment. They think she's just venting, or they think it's an invitation to step in and fix things. Both reactions are mistakes. When she shares emotional gaps, she's testing emotional safety. She's seeing how it feels to be understood by someone who is not her husband. That experience alone can create attachment even without physical contact. This is how emotional affairs begin quietly without intention. Stoicism warns directly against this trap. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Emotional gaps are often magnified internally. When she voices them to you, she's externalizing that imagination and seeing how it lands. Your response matters. Here's the danger. If you lean in emotionally, offer validation, reassurance, or become her emotional anchor, you shift roles. You are no longer a neutral presence, you become a substitute. That might feel flattering, but it puts you in a weak position. Now you are responsible for emotions you did not create. A Stoic man does not absorb what does not belong to him. The correct posture here is calm, listening without emotional rescue. You don't dismiss her feelings, but you don't deepen them either. You acknowledge without amplifying. You remain grounded in yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded us to act without attachment to outcome. That means you don't use her vulnerability to feel important. You don't push intimacy through empathy. You let her emotions remain hers. Another key point. Emotional gaps are usually shared selectively, not with everyone. If she chooses you, it means she feels regulated around you. That's a compliment, but it's also a responsibility. How you handle it defines your character. Men lose power here by becoming overly understanding. They nod too much, they mirror pain, they offer solutions. That creates dependency. Dependency kills respect and invites chaos. Stoic restraint keeps the interaction clean. You listen, you stay neutral, you don't escalate closeness. That neutrality often increases her internal conflict because she feels something without being able to lean on you emotionally. That's not manipulation. That's boundaries. Let's be real. Emotional sharing feels intimate because it is, but intimacy without structure leads to damage. You protect yourself and everyone involved by not stepping into a role you didn't choose. Here's the hard truth. If a woman fills her emotional gaps through you, she weakens her marriage and complicates your life. A strong man does not participate in that, even silently. Stoicism is not coldness. It is discipline with compassion. You can be kind without being entangled, present without being pulled in. If you want to learn how to handle moments like this with precision and self-respect, consider joining the channel membership. That's where we go deeper into real-world situations men face, without sugarcoating and without crossing lines. If this resonates, leave a comment and write, "I hold boundaries." Don't move just yet. The next signal reveals how physical proximity increases while deniability stays intact. Number 5. Subtle physical proximity. Folks, this is where attraction becomes physical without ever becoming obvious. A married woman who likes you but is hiding it won't touch you outright. She won't cross a clear line. Instead, she shortens distance, slowly, carefully, in ways that can always be explained away if needed. Let's be real. People who feel nothing keep space. People who feel something test closeness. Subtle physical proximity is not about contact. It's about positioning. Where she stands, how often she ends up beside you, how little she adjusts when that space shrinks. Here's a real situation. Chris is 51, divorced, calm and well-respected at work. Angela is 48, married, social, and usually very proper. Over time, Chris notices Angela choosing the chair next to him during group meetings, even when others are available. When they're standing, she angles her body toward him. When he steps slightly closer, she doesn't step back. Nothing inappropriate happens, but the distance keeps closing. That's not coincidence, that's allowance. Another example. Tom is 55, married but emotionally independent. He attends a charity event where he often speaks with Melissa, 46, married, outgoing. Melissa consistently stands just inside his personal space when they talk. When others join, she shifts back. When they're alone again, she drifts closer. The movement is subtle but consistent. That's the signal. Physical proximity is the safest way for attraction to express itself when touch is off limits. It creates sensation without exposure. If questioned, she can say it was crowded, casual, unintentional, but her body knows exactly what it's doing. This is where many men fail. They either freeze and become awkward, or they push closer to test it. Both reactions break the balance. Freezing turns you small. Pushing turns you reckless. Stoic discipline lives in the middle. You neither retreat nor advance. You remain grounded. If she steps closer, you don't flinch. You also don't close the gap further. Calm neutrality keeps you in control. Marcus Aurelius spoke about not being pulled by impulse. This applies physically as much as emotionally. Your stillness communicates strength. Strength makes proximity meaningful without becoming dangerous. Here's the key detail most men miss. Subtle proximity often increases over time. It doesn't jump suddenly. It inches forward. If you notice the distance shrinking across weeks, not moments, you're seeing attraction being managed, not imagined. Another important point. She often chooses moments where proximity looks innocent. Busy rooms, shared tasks, standing instead of sitting. She builds deniability into the behavior. That's not manipulation. That's self-protection. My friend, this is not a green light. It's information. It tells you attraction exists, but restraint is still active. Your job is not to exploit it. Your job is to maintain your frame and your boundaries. Men who try to escalate here lose respect fast. Men who stay composed keep their dignity and their leverage. Calm presence does more than bold moves ever will. Let's say this clearly. Subtle physical proximity is attraction checking the temperature. If you stay steady, you pass the test without creating damage. If you've noticed this before, leave a comment and write, "I stay grounded." Hold steady. What comes next explains why nervous behavior around her husband is one of the clearest tells of all. Number 6. Nervous around her husband. Folks, this signal is uncomfortable to watch, and that's exactly why it's revealing. When a married woman feels attraction, she's trying to suppress her composure, often slips the moment her husband enters the space. Not dramatically, subtly. Her body tightens, her tone changes, her awareness spikes. That nervous shift is not about guilt alone, it's about conflict. Let's be real. When nothing is happening internally, there's nothing to manage. Calm stays calm. But when attraction exists and restraint is active, the nervous system goes into alert mode. She starts monitoring herself. Her posture becomes more controlled. Her words become careful. She's not worried about you doing something wrong. She's worried about herself being seen. Stoic philosophy explains this clearly. Epictetus taught that disturbance comes from attachment to impressions. The presence of her husband introduces an impression she must manage. The contrast between how she feels and how she must appear creates tension. That tension shows up as nervous behavior. You'll notice small things, a sudden drop in eye contact, a sharper tone than necessary, overcorrecting politeness. She may laugh less, speak less, or suddenly include her husband in ways that feel forced. These are not random. They are self-regulation under pressure. Here's the important part. This nervousness is not an invitation. It's a tell. It reveals that something internal is being suppressed. Men get into trouble when they misread that suppression as opportunity. Marcus Aurelius warned against being pulled by appearances. If you react to her nervousness by trying to reassure, flirt, or soften the situation, you make it worse. You increase the internal conflict she's already managing. That puts you in the role of a destabilizer, not a grounded presence. The Stoic response is neutrality. You stay exactly the same tone, same posture, same boundaries. You don't acknowledge the shift. You don't adjust to it. Your steadiness becomes the anchor in a moment where she feels internally split. Another layer most men miss is this. Nervousness often shows up after a pattern of private warmth. That's the giveaway. Calm alone means nothing. Calm followed by tension means contrast. Contrast signals restraint. Seneca wrote that the mind suffers more from anticipation than reality. In this moment, she's anticipating exposure, judgment, or loss of control. You don't need to participate in that anticipation. You let it pass without engagement. Why does this matter? Because how you handle this moment defines your character. Men who lean into secrecy, shared looks, or inside jokes become part of the problem. Men who remain visible, respectful, and composed maintain their integrity. Let's say this clearly. A woman being nervous around her husband is not your leverage. It's your responsibility to stay clean. You don't exploit tension. You don't feed it. You don't turn it into a silent game. Stoicism is about mastery of self, not influence over others. You master your reactions. You master your impulses. You keep your conduct above question. When you do that, something interesting happens. The tension resolves without damage. Either her attraction fades or it remains contained. In both cases, you keep your dignity intact. That's the win most men never consider. If this resonates, drop a comment and write, "I stay disciplined, hold steady." The next signal explains why mixed signals are not confusion at all, but a deliberate form of self-control. Number 7. Mixed signals are intentional. Folks, mixed signals aren't confusion, they're management. When a married woman feels attraction, she's trying to hide. Inconsistency becomes her shield. Warm one moment, distant the next, engaged privately, detached publicly. That back and forth isn't accidental. It's deliberate self-control. Let's be real. If she truly felt nothing, her behavior would be consistent. Neutral stays neutral. Mixed signals show up only when two forces are fighting inside her. Interest pulls one way, responsibility pulls the other. The result is controlled inconsistency. Here's a real example. Robert is 53, divorced, steady and respected in his community. He meets Karen, 48, married, intelligent, and socially aware through a volunteer board. One week, Karen is engaged, asking thoughtful questions, laughing easily, standing close. The next week, she's formal, brief, and distant. Robert doesn't change, Karen does. That swing isn't moodiness. It's self-regulation. Another situation. Brian is 50, calm, not chasing anything. He interacts with Melissa, 46, married, during regular networking events. When they exchange messages about work, Melissa is responsive and warm. In person, when others are nearby, she barely engages. Later, she sends a thoughtful follow-up. Mixed signals again, same pattern, same purpose. Mixed signals serve three functions. First, they allow her to feel attraction without committing to it. Second, they preserve deniability. If questioned, she can point to the cold moments. Third, they test you. She's watching how you respond. This is where most men fail. They try to decode every shift. They chase clarity. They ask indirect questions. They over-adjust their behavior to match hers. That destroys your position. Now you're reacting to her internal conflict instead of remaining centered. Stoic philosophy cuts through this. Marcus Aurelius reminded us not to be dragged around by impressions. Mixed signals are impressions. If you chase them, you lose composure. If you observe them calmly, you keep control. The correct response is consistency. You don't reward warmth or punish distance. You don't escalate during highs or withdraw during lows. You stay the same. Calm, respectful, grounded. That steadiness exposes the truth faster than confrontation ever could. Here's the key insight. Mixed signals only work when the other person plays along. When you refuse to dance, the pattern loses power. Either the behavior stabilizes or it fades. In both cases, you keep your dignity. Another important point. Mixed signals often intensify when she senses you're unaffected. If you don't chase the warmth, she feels the pull more strongly. Not because you're manipulating, but because you're not feeding the internal loop she's managing. My friend, do not mistake mixed signals for an invitation to push. They're a sign to hold your line. Escalation turns tension into exposure. Restraint turns tension into clarity. Stoicism is about mastering yourself, not decoding others. When you stay steady, you remove yourself from her internal tug-of-war. That's strength. That's maturity. Let's say this plainly. Mixed signals are intentional because attraction is present and boundaries are active. Your job is not to break those boundaries. It's to remain a man who doesn't get pulled out of frame. If you've seen this pattern, drop a comment and write, "I stay steady." Keep watching. The next signal reveals how attraction shows up without permission, even when she's trying hardest to suppress it. Number 8. She tests your restraint. Folks, this is where attraction quietly turns into a character test. When a married woman feels something she cannot act on, she often tests restraint instead. Not directly, subtly. She creates moments where you could cross a line, then watches to see if you do. This is not seduction, it's evaluation. Let's be real, restraint is rare. Most men either freeze or overstep. She's not looking for boldness here, she's looking for control. She wants to know whether you can hold tension without releasing it in the wrong direction. These tests come disguised as harmless situations. A longer pause. A personal comment dropped casually. A joke that could turn suggestive if you push it. She opens a door just wide enough to see what you'll do, then waits. Your response tells her everything. Stoic philosophy speaks directly to this moment. Epictetus taught that true freedom is mastery over impulse. When desire rises and you still choose your conduct, you demonstrate inner authority. Inner authority is what creates respect even when attraction must stay hidden. Here's what most men miss. Restraint is not rejection. It's strength. When you respond calmly, keep your tone steady, and don't escalate, you communicate that you are not ruled by opportunity. That alone separates you from the majority. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best man is the one who is strongest when tempted. In these moments, temptation is not physical, it's emotional. The urge to feel chosen, the urge to confirm attraction, the urge to win. Restraint keeps you clean. Another layer to this test is timing. She often creates it when no one else is around, but consequences still exist. That's intentional. It's a low-risk environment where she can observe your character without immediate fallout. If you fail here, you signal danger. The wrong move is leaning in, flirting harder, making it about tension. The other wrong move is awkward withdrawal. Silence that feels scared. Both reactions show lack of control. The Stoic response is composed engagement, present, respectful, unchanged. Seneca warned that unchecked desire enslaves the mind. When you let impulse lead, you lose clarity. When you hold steady, clarity returns. She feels that clarity immediately, even if she never says it out loud. Here's the paradox. Restraint often deepens attraction internally, even while preventing action. That's not manipulation. That's the natural result of discipline. Discipline creates safety. Safety sustains respect. My friend, this is not about winning her. It's about remaining yourself. Tests of restraint are invitations to lose integrity if you're careless. A Stoic man declines without announcing it. You don't explain. You don't moralize. You simply behave consistently with your values. That quiet consistency leaves a stronger impression than any clever move ever could. If this makes sense, drop a comment and write, "I master impulse. Stay focused." What comes next reveals how attraction shows up, even when permission is never given, and why that matters most of all. Number 9. Attraction without permission. Folks, this is the part most men struggle to accept. Attraction doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check marital status first. It shows up quietly, often where it shouldn't, and then people scramble to control it. Understanding this keeps you calm instead of confused. Let's be real. A married woman doesn't wake up planning to feel something for you. Attraction happens because of proximity, emotional contrast, and how you carry yourself. When it appears, she doesn't celebrate it. She manages it. That's why the signals feel inconsistent and restrained. Here's a real situation. Kevin is 54, divorced, grounded and respected at his gym in Colorado. Over months, he exchanges polite conversation with Laura, 48, married, reserved, and disciplined. Kevin never pushes. He stays calm. Over time, Laura starts reacting differently to him than to others. Her tone softens. She notices when he arrives. She becomes more aware of herself around him. None of this was planned. Attraction surfaced without permission, and now she's containing it. Another example. Andrew is 50, married but emotionally independent, active in a local volunteer group. He works alongside Denise, 45, married, friendly, and careful. Their interactions are clean, but Andrew notices Denise becomes more attentive when they work one-on-one. When others join, she pulls back sharply. Attraction didn't ask either of them if it was convenient. It simply appeared, and restraint followed. This matters because men often take attraction personally. They think it's an invitation or a responsibility. It's neither. Attraction is a human response. What defines character is how it's handled after it appears. Stoic philosophy prepares you for this. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that impressions arrive uninvited, but we choose how to respond. Attraction is an impression. You don't create it, and you don't need to destroy it. You simply refuse to act without clarity and values. The danger is assuming attraction needs resolution. It doesn't. Many men try to clarify, confirm, or escalate. That turns a contained situation into a messy one. A Stoic man lets attraction exist without feeding it. Here's what women notice. When you don't react, don't chase, and don't change your behavior, you signal control. Control is calming. It allows her to manage her feelings without pressure. That's how you stay respected instead of becoming a problem. Another subtle point. Attraction without permission often intensifies when you remain steady. Not because you're doing anything, but because you're not. You're not seeking validation. You're not fishing for confirmation. You're not using attention to inflate your ego. That restraint keeps you safe and keeps the situation from spiraling. Let's say this clearly. Attraction existing does not mean action is required. It means awareness is required. When you stay composed, attraction either fades naturally or remains contained. Both outcomes protect your dignity. Men who fail here turn moments into secrets. Secrets lead to risk. Risk leads to consequences no one wanted. Men who succeed remain visible, respectful, and unchanged. My friend, attraction without permission is not power. Self-control is. If you've experienced this, drop a comment and write, I stay disciplined. Hold steady. The final part brings everything together and shows why Stoic boundaries are what ultimately protect everyone involved. Number 10. Stoic men don't cross lines. Folks, this is where everything comes together. Stoic men don't cross lines, not because they're afraid, not because they lack desire, and not because they don't notice attraction. They don't cross lines because they understand something most men never learn. Crossing lines costs more than it gives, and real power is shown in restraint. Let's be real. Every signal we've talked about points to one truth. Attraction can exist without action. Interest can surface without permission. Tension can live quietly without needing release. The man who understands this doesn't rush to resolve it. He allows it to exist while he remains intact. Most men think strength is taking opportunities when they appear. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Strength is knowing which opportunities you refuse. Marcus Aurelius wrote about choosing what aligns with your nature, not what flatters your impulse. A Stoic man doesn't ask, "Can I get away with this?" He asks, "Does this cost me my self-respect?" Crossing lines always starts small. A private message that didn't need to be sent. A joke that leaned too far. A moment of secrecy justified as harmless. None of it feels dramatic at first. But each step shifts your role. You move from grounded presence to hidden participant. Once that happens, you lose clarity. A Stoic man protects clarity above all else. Here's the difference. When you don't cross lines, you stay visible. Your behavior can be explained in daylight without excuses. That visibility keeps you safe. It keeps her safe. It keeps everyone out of situations they didn't plan for. Another truth most men avoid. Lines exist to protect dignity, not restrict desire. Desire without structure leads to regret. Stoicism is not about suppressing desire. It's about governing it. Epictetus taught that no man is free who is not master of himself. Crossing lines is surrendering mastery for a moment of ego. Stoic men also understand consequences beyond themselves. When lines are crossed, trust erodes in multiple directions. Reputations suffer, families destabilize. Even if no one ever finds out, the internal cost remains. Guilt, tension, and secrecy change how you carry yourself. You lose presence. And presence is the very thing that created attraction in the first place. Let's say this clearly. The man who crosses lines becomes reactive. The man who doesn't remains centered. Women may feel attraction toward both, but they only respect one. Respect lasts longer than chemistry. Stoic restraint also closes the loop psychologically. When you refuse to escalate, attraction either dissolves or remains contained. In both outcomes, you win. You keep your dignity. You keep your boundaries. You keep your life clean. This is not about morality speeches. This is about self-command, the ability to feel without acting, to notice without pursuing, to stay calm when others would justify. When a Stoic man walks away from temptation quietly without drama or explanation, he sends a message, not to her but to himself. I am in control. That control shapes everything else. How you show up in work, in relationships, in conflict, in solitude. It sharpens your identity instead of fragmenting it. So remember this, my friend. Signals don't demand action. Attraction doesn't demand response. Tension doesn't demand release. Only impulse demands urgency. Stoic men don't live by impulse. They live by principle. And that's why they never cross lines, even when they easily could. All right, folks, let's wrap this up. Today we broke down the subtle but powerful signals a married woman may show when attraction is present but hidden. More importantly, we focused on how a grounded Stoic man observes without reacting, understands without escalating, and keeps his dignity intact. This video wasn't about fantasy or crossing lines. It was about awareness, self-control, and protecting your reputation, your peace, and your identity. If you want to go deeper into real-world psychology, boundaries, and Stoic discipline for men who've lived a little, consider joining the channel membership. That's where I share content I don't post publicly. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Thank you for your time, my friend. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and I'll see you again tomorrow.